Welcome to the study skills session on essay writing. It's not uncommon for students to procrastinate and put off writing an essay until the night before it's due, in anticipation of an exasperating experience. However, if you know how to approach an essay and understand how to write one, it doesn't have to be a dreadful task. In fact, it can be quite easy and even fun. My name is Celeste and I'm part of the faculty at Alpha Crucis. In this session of study skills, I would like to just share some tips on how to write a good essay. So what makes a good essay and how do you write one? Different disciplines and even different subject areas may require different kinds of essays. And essays can be written for very different purposes. Depending on the subject area or even the question involved, an essay can be expected to describe something, discuss something, analyse something. However, there are a number of general steps that one can take which will lead to a good essay, regardless of the specific subject area or even the question. I would like to briefly outline 6 steps that I think are particularly helpful. The first step, step 1, is analysing the question. This step involves interpreting the question, or in other words, understanding what the question is asking you to do. It's not uncommon that an essay addresses the wrong topic or fails to deal with the information addressed in the way that was being asked by the original question. But taking the time to interpret the question being asked will help avoid such errors. There are 2 main questions that need to be asked at this stage. What information is the question asking for? And what am I being asked to do with that information? Knowing what information is being asked for will help you focus your essay. And knowing what you are supposed to do with that information will help you decide whether you need to discuss, describe, analyse, or a combination of the above. If you cannot seem to answer these 2 questions, any ambiguities can normally be cleared up by talking to your tutor or the lecturer who set the question, but please do allow plenty of time before the essay is due to ask your tutor or lecturer for their help. Okay, once you understand where you're going with the question, the second step is research. Reading and researching the topic you need to write about will enable you to plan the essay. Most importantly, you will not be able to write intelligibly about a topic unless you are familiar with it. In general, it is expected that for every 1,000 words an essay requires, you will need to refer to approximately 5 sources. So for example, if you need to write a 2,500 word essay, you should have read at least 12 sources, which may include books and journal articles. The depth of your research also needs to be sufficient. An essay using only the internet for research is generally a weak paper and puts you at a disadvantage for not using better information available from more academic sources such as journal articles and specialised books. It's also a good idea to take notes as you're researching. Write down interesting points, interesting quotes, pertinent information. Just ensure you write down the sources of any quotes and any quotations accurately. This brings us to step 3, structuring your essay. Once you are well underway in your research, you need to start planning the structure of the essay. At this stage, brainstorming can help. A good way to make a plan is to jot down all your interesting thoughts and then put them into logical order, adding any further thoughts that occur to you and discarding those that don't fit in. From these points, you can continue to develop the structure of your essay. A good essay is a well-structured essay, so it is important to actually map out the structure. Map out your paragraphs Perhaps use the thoughts that you have put into a logical order as bullet points that you can expand upon and transform into paragraphs. Just a hint, you should do this before you do too much writing. Step 4, actually writing the essay. Once you have an idea of what you're going to write and how you're going to structure, you can begin writing. Now, an essay should have a beginning, middle, and an end. So let's talk about the beginning first. The beginning should comprise an introduction. Here, the topic is introduced and the trajectory of your essay should be outlined. A good introduction would also include any necessary definitions. For example, if you were writing an essay on spirit baptism, then you might want to define the concept in the introduction. The purpose of the introduction is to give a broad picture of what the essay is going to say. If you like, you can give your answer or conclusion to the question in the introduction and then use the rest of the essay to explain it. If you decide to state your answer or conclusion in the introduction, be sure though to follow through with the same one all the way to the end. Now, for the middle of the essay. The middle, or the body, is where the main content of your essay is. This part of the essay should contain all the information that you are providing to answer the question. It should include descriptions of the appropriate theories and discussion of different concepts or different points of view. The main issue here is how to link together this information into a coherent whole. The body of the essay is where you have the chance to display your grasp of complex topics, your extensive research, your evidence to back up an argument, and your ability to analyse. The body of the essay is where you have the chance to justify the conclusion you come to. What the essay marker wants to see in this section is relevance and independence of thought. Relevance means that each paragraph should be relevant to your answering the question, and tangents should be avoided. Quite often, the art of good essay writing is not what to include, but what to omit. Independence of thought means that your essay should not simply be a relaying of others' thoughts. Although it is important that you relay the thoughts of others as you have discovered them in your research, it is generally expected that you will critically engage with these thoughts. This includes the need to evaluate others' ideas or opinions. Just remember, it is quite okay to disagree with the ideas of other writers. In fact, many essay topics will specifically ask you to do this. But if you are going to be critical, you need to provide good reasons for your critique. As for using quotes, it is acceptable and sometimes beneficial to quote an author or source directly. There are 3 instances when it can be particularly beneficial to use quotes. Firstly, when someone has written something that you couldn't put better in your own words. Secondly, when you want to disagree with the specifics of what someone has said. And thirdly, when you want to launch an interesting idea of your own that has been sparked by what someone else has said. However, it should be kept in mind that quotes should not make up the majority of the essay. You need to write most of the essay in your own words. This brings us to the end of the middle section. And this should be your conclusion. If your essay was long and complex, it might be a good idea to recap your ideas in a clear, summarising manner. But it should not just be a summary of the whole essay. It should contain some conclusions about what you have written. Here, avoid surprises, except for those that further back up your earlier points. If all your arguments thus far have been leading one way, don't conclude with something completely different. Step 5, checking the content. Okay, once your essay is written, you're nearly there. But the next step, step 5, is of vital importance. It is at this point that you check the content and make any necessary adjustments. Here, be sure to read over your work, making sure that, firstly, your paragraphs link together. It is important for the flow of an essay that each paragraph leads to the next. When this does not happen, the essay can become incoherent and disjointed. Secondly, make sure that you have developed a coherent argument that leads to your conclusion. Often your argument is the key to the essay. In the body of your essay, you need to be sure that the argument comes through clearly. Accordingly, make sure that you have provided sufficient support for what you are arguing. Similarly, make sure you back up the claims that you make with evidence. Your essays will generally be marked with an eye to your ability to do these things. Step 6, editing your essay. Finally, once you are happy with the content of your essay, you arrive at step 6, editing. Here you need to check your spelling, punctuation and grammar. Make sure you have used gender-inclusive language throughout and format your essay as required. Usually, you will be required to use Times New Roman 12 or a similar style and size of font. The essay should have double line spacing and a line space between paragraphs. Providing headings for the major sections is also helpful. Don't forget to include an abstract, a bibliography, and check the accuracy of your footnotes and use of quotation marks. Now, make sure that once you have edited your essay, you include a title page and name your file according to the correct naming conventions. Details for this can be found in your student handbook or in your unit outline. Well, that's it from me. I hope you have found this study skills session helpful. Happy essay writing, and don't forget to submit the essay once you've finished. Click on the submission button and breathe a sigh of relief.